Hey there, innovation champions. Melissa Dinwiddie here. So I want to take you back to this past weekend. It was Sunday morning. I led some songs at a Flag Day event. I was one of a number of song leaders. And afterwards, a woman who sings in my dad's choir, my dad sings in a choir, a woman came up to me and she said, "Oh, you have such a strong voice. You're a wonderful song leader." And I said, "Thank you, because I have trained myself to actually receive compliments instead of deflecting them." But then, because she is also a singer, I told her something that most people don't want to hear. I said, this voice, it actually isn't natural. It is the product of about 15 minutes a day for years. And she looked at me like I had grown a second head. So here's the strange thing about how we think about skill, especially if it has anything to do with related to creativity. Nobody is surprised usually that guitar takes practice to get good at, or piano or trumpet. We tend to accept that fingers and lips and lungs need training before they do anything really useful with an instrument. But everyone, just about, is born with a voice. Very few people are born mute. We're singing "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star" in nursery school. So somewhere along the way, we decided that singing must be different. Either you have it or you don't. Now, I had some of it right out of the gate. I had decent pitch. A decent ear. I had decent timing. But what I didn't have was a voice that worked above a certain point. The moment that I crossed into what singers call my head voice, that's the notes in the higher register, the higher range, my sound really thinned out to pretty much almost nothing. So for years, I basically just avoided those notes, which was pretty limiting. Now, eventually, when I got serious about singing, I started working with a vocal coach who had zero interest in letting me keep avoiding my head voice. And she gave me exercises daily, about 15 minutes, built specifically to strengthen the muscles in that register, to strengthen my vocal folds, or what people typically know of as vocal cords. Now, I didn't believe it would work. And I remember thinking, politely, that she had to be wrong. But she told me that one day, the gap between my chest voice and my head voice would simply stop being a gap, and the two would blend. And it took a while. It took a few years, 15 minutes just about every single day. And she was right. One day that blend just showed up. I was kind of astonished, but it happened. Now, most of us are walking around with two competing stories about how skill works. There's the talent story that says some people have it, some don't, and that gap is permanent. Either your voice is good or it isn't. Either your team is innovative or it isn't. Then there's the training story. And the training story says that gap is just untrained range. And it closes not through one big event, but through small, specific reps, repeated until the blend appears. And every team I've worked with is pretty much operating on the talent story by default. even when no one would say it out loud. We're just not a creative team. Innovation isn't really our culture. Sound familiar? That is not a culture problem. That is an untrained head voice. So, when a leader gets handed an innovation mandate, the instinct is almost always the same. Go big, book the venue, plan the 3-day offsite, bring in a speaker. Hi, that's me. Generate the energy. Now, I love designing and facilitating these days, these offsites. And from the feedback that I get, people leave them really genuinely lit up. That energy is real. It's a lot like a great music workshop or the music camps that I go to for a week over the summer. You walk in at one level, and by the end of the immersive experience, you can suddenly do things that you couldn't do before. The breakthrough happened. Nobody imagined it. But here's the part nobody likes. If there's nothing to practice between now and the next time you try, that new level you achieved, it doesn't stick. The workshop didn't fail. It just didn't have anything to land on. And then Monday hits and the backlog is still there, and the innovation culture just sort of quietly fades. Not because the big day was wrong, but because nothing was built to catch what it unlocked. Now, I've watched that opening crack happen in as little as 45 minutes. Most memorably with 125 project managers who would have told you accurately that play had nothing to do with their jobs. No slides, just structured experiments. And by the end, something had genuinely shifted. The room felt different. That's the power of the right concentrated experience. What the book, Innovation at Work, is designed to answer is the question nobody asks in that moment. What do you do on Tuesday? Now, I think about that woman's face a lot, that two heads look. It's the same look I get from leaders when I tell them the offsite isn't the finish line, it's the kickoff. The 15 minutes on purpose, on a schedule, for longer than feels reasonable, that's what turns a great day into lasting capability. Skip it, and the energy's real, but temporary. Build it in, and the big day becomes the moment everything else clicks into place. As I like to say, innovation isn't a value, it's a practice. And the best offsites are where that practice gets its running start. If you want to try this yourself, pick one thing this week, just 15 minutes. Don't judge it, don't perfect it, just do the rep. And if you want the full set, all 52 of these are in my book, Innovation at Work, which you can find at innovationatworkbook.com. You can use that QR code. The link is also in the description. And if you're a leader trying to figure out what your team's 15 minutes should actually be, that's exactly what we would do in a free innovation strategy session, which you can book at innovationatworkbook.com/call. Use a QR code, and you can also find the link below. Now, if this was useful, hit like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you don't miss the next one. Until then, stay curious, stay playful, and keep creating the impossible. Ciao.